Wish I would have known. Hi, and thank you for joining the Wish I Would Have Known podcast, or as we like to call it, WIWHK. I'm your host, Troy Vera. I'm inspired by the variety of surprise twists and turns that people have taken in their careers, and will continue inviting them to share their stories with you. Our guests represent diverse lines of business. You'll meet social workers, symphony musicians, racehorse owners, radio personalities, human resources leaders, commercial real estate lenders, filmmakers, and school principals, just to name a few. Join us and hear what has worked for them and what might just spark a fire in you. This podcast, as always, is going to be a conversation between friends and peers, nothing too crazy or fancy. We'll be sharing life's experiences in the interest of helping you grow and succeed in your current or even a new career field. Today's very special guest is my wife, Krista Vera, and she's going to be joining us today to talk about her career journey as a human resources professional. So let's get to know Krista a little bit better. Hi, Krista.
Hi, I'm Krista Vera. I have about 20 years in human resources. I started out in HR in the state of California, the great state of California, my home state. And practicing HR in California was really the best thing for my career. It really taught me a lot of what I needed to know about HR. Being in California, you wear it like a badge of honor. It is one of the most difficult places in which to practice human resources in the entire country, is because the laws are constantly evolving. Not only do you have to understand employment law in depth, but you have to know both federal employment law and state employment law, and you have to understand the spirit of the law, which helps with its application. And I think that that's what makes doing HR in California so powerful in terms of skill and passion for your career.
Yeah, and I think that you feel really fulfilled every day because you're doing something that means something to you. And I know that there's a couple different types of human resources approach, for lack of a better term. And one of those is employee advocacy, and the other is company advocacy. So which one do you hold most firm to?
I would say that I am mostly an employee advocate in that I help employees better understand the company. And that's how I advocate for the company. I think creating that shared understanding is one of the foundational pieces of human resources. You want to be that individual that helps employees understand the company's overall goal, the company's evolving goals. Quarterly goals and annual goals are two different things. So you want to help the employees understand, how do they fit in? How can they help achieve that overall goal? And what sort of special skill or special flavor do they bring to the table in order to reach those goals for the company?
Yeah, and everybody brings something from their previous job to work, and sometimes it's for the better and maybe a little bit for the worse. But one of the ways that you really help define and refine people is through personality tests, things like the Myers-Briggs or the DISC or Strengths Finders. Are there any that you've taken in the past that really kind of follow you through your career?
You're right about personality tests and how it helps define people, because not only does it help them understand themselves better, but it helps you as a company understand how to best fit them into your structure. There are things that not only you can discover about yourself, but the company can also discover about you and form the position around who you are and what you bring to the table in order to maximize your impact. One of the test approaches that I have really enjoyed the most is the DISC. I took it just before going into human resources. It's one of the tests that revealed that I belong in either human resources or, believe it or not, sales. So that is what the DISC results showed me, that these are the two types of career paths I should take. The other interesting thing about the DISC is that I took the DISC over a decade apart and my results were the same. That tells me that the DISC is very good at showing us who we are deep down inside, and how there are certain things about ourselves, our characteristics, what makes us who we are, that just don't change. So as far as the disc goes, I learned that I'm a high I. Someone who's a high I is outgoing, enthusiastic, optimistic, high spirited, and lively. That is what you want in a human resources professional. You want someone who is enthusiastic and has a good outlook about the company. You know, if times are great, we can be enthusiastic that times are great. If times are not so good, we can be enthusiastic about what's coming next and how we can power that with people. The other part about my disc that I'm pretty proud of is more introverted. It's the high S. A high S person is accommodating. They're even tempered. They're tactful. They're humble, and they're patient with others. And I think that those are all skills that you must have as a human resources professional in order to really see people and to ensure that you influence the environment around them to make sure that they're comfortable so that they can perform.
Yeah, I think really having the ability to, in a kind and structured way, to kind of crawl inside their head, what makes them tick, what's going to make them do a good job. And some of the modern terminology is empathy and all that, but it really comes down to the EQ or the emotional knowledge about somebody. And what do you do to kind of read the room? It's almost like you have to be a bit of an FBI profiler to catch these small cues that help kind of unlock somebody.
You do have to learn how to read the room. That's the first key in unlocking who someone is and how they can best perform and be most impactful at their company. But it starts out with reading the room, and then it grows to something more profound and deeper, where you start to understand someone's little cues, read the looks on their face, understand the things that they say after they have a certain look or certain body language, understand the actions that they take when they have that certain body language and how it influences others. Look around at others and see how they perceive the individual and the words that they're saying and the look that's on their face and the words that they're using and how they're using them, their volume, their voice inflection, things like that. That's how you really get to know people, and it helps you in really forming teams and putting the right people together at the right time.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a skill in putting this human puzzle together, because there's strengths, there's weaknesses, there's shortcomings. Sometimes there's even conditional things that you as a human resources professional can help buffer or sand down, so that way somebody doesn't say something that's out of pocket or that they're going to regret. You really kind of help them be a bit of a filter and a valve. You can be there for them in a special, meaningful way. What really drives you to continue to grow and succeed? What's the thing that puts fuel in your tank?
I definitely have a passion for people. I like to see people. I like to really know them, and I also like to see them succeed. And it's about putting the right people in the right position. And I also like to encourage people. I can see talent. I know that there are people that have done well for a company and they will continue to do well for a company. Maybe they have to leave and come back later. Sometimes that occurs to make their impact even more powerful and more felt within the organization. I'm just a believer in the power of people.
Yeah, I think with the new prevalence of hybrid workforce and mixed in and out of office, there has to be a lot of challenges that are now in front of you that you've had to face in these last 3 years or so. And I think the industry is changing, and I really feel and I see that you're changing along with that. So what's your philosophy of continuing education, webinars, sessions, trainings? How do you keep your tools sharp?
Continuing education is not just incumbent upon professionals to participate in to reignite that spark within them for their career, but in many cases it's required. For my human resources designation, it's something that's required, and it's something that I do so gladly and gleefully, because it really gives me that refresher. It reignites my passion for human resources. I like continuing to learn and continuing to grow.
Yeah, I think as professionals, if we're not growing, we're getting dusty. The industry or any kind of trends are just going to speed right past us. Part of that staying sharp and staying aware of what's going on is technology. Some people may revile it a little bit, but the ones that know how to use it right really help augment their job. And AI is not taking anybody's jobs anytime soon. But what about some tools, technology, platforms, somebody who does the work of human resources? What part does technology play in that?
Earlier on in human resources, when HRIS sort of took the stage, which is around the beginning of my human resources career, is when it really took the stage. HRIS stands for Human Resources Information System. It tells us everything we need to know about our people, oftentimes also their performance. It's a way to really manage the workforce from an electronic platform. There are a lot of really big players out there. There's a lot of good software. I don't really have very many software recommendations. Maybe I did a few years ago when other pieces of more archaic software were sort of fizzling out of the market. But now I believe we're at a place where most HRIS softwares are very powerful, very good, and deliver all the things for us. It centralizes our recruiting, centralizes our onboarding, centralizes our offboarding, our benefits elections, COBRA, things that all go into the employee experience. One of the pieces, though, that individuals really need to master is integrations. Data integrations is where it's at. That's where you're going to increase efficiency for your department. And you're also going to cut down on some of the waste that's spent fixing human error that can occur without those integrations. So you want to make sure that your software platforms can talk to each other, are talking to each other, and things are running smoothly in that area. And that's one area that I'm certainly an advocate for, would be data integrations.
Yeah, I think there's an important, in my field of marketing, also of field mapping. But I think if you were to learn how to write a SQL query that pulls data from a database, knowing how to use Excel and prepare reports, all those kinds of things are standard and everyday knowledge that everybody has to have. But technology makes everybody's jobs faster. And if you don't know how to use it, it's garbage in, garbage out. So to know how to use it the right way is super important.
Interestingly enough, in the beginning of my career, I had to learn how to write SQL queries just to pull information down out of the sort of old school HRIS. So HR has gone from a filing cabinet full of files on people to systems where you can pull that information down, where you can put it into an Excel spreadsheet and spit out reports that you need in order to comply with regulations, whether it be because you have a government contract or you're complying with employment law regulations at large.
Yeah, and I think with the electronic records, it helps a company and their activities be a lot more defensible, to stay organized, good documentation, and if something were to happen, you have your backing. So in general, would you rather have fleeting and lucrative success or deliberate and slow growth?
Definite deliberate and slow, because I'm a person that likes to master all the different aspects of my career. I like to be someone who's a master of payroll, someone who is a master at benefits, making sure that the plan design is good, solid, serves the employees. I like to be that person that masters each of those skills. I think that you need to do that in order to be an effective leader.
Yeah, and I think there's a direct pipeline that you have to, speaking of leaders, that you have to executive leadership, the owner's suite. So what's something that you would suggest to business owners who want to stay progressive, and compliant and really make the most of their influence.
There's a saying that a lot of companies adopt, and it's if you see something, say something. Well, that just doesn't just apply to the employees, but it also applies to individuals at the top. I think that, when you're complicit or you choose to stick your head in the sand, whatever sort of way you want to define it, knowing what's going on and choosing to do nothing about it is participating in that thing that shouldn't be done. You are the example. You are the one that everyone looks to. And when they see you as a prominent leader or executive within an organization just looking the other way, they think it's okay. And it's only going to breed more and more malfeasance. So if you see something, not just say something, but do something about it, because you have a big voice.
Yeah, and I think with the real estate industry, there's that whole thing of the three most important words are location, location, location. It seems to me that in your world, documentation is the most important thing that somebody can do, both to protect themselves, but also a company can document perhaps performance issues that an employee might have that helps them develop into a better person or a better employee.
When you have an employee who's coming in for what is potentially the final meeting, they should not be caught by surprise. They should know and be aware of what it is they've done. If it's something that they shouldn't have done, they should know and be aware of what they did that they shouldn't have done, how to fix it, have a path forward, and receive feedback. Make sure that if you have employees and you're trying to improve their performance, tell them what it is they need to improve, give them a roadmap or a path forward, and check in with them. Make it time-based. Make it over the course of 60 days or over the course of 90 days and give people an opportunity to step up and to change their performance. And, for some reason, we as employers, we stop remembering the reason why we hired someone in the first place. You saw something in that individual at that time. Do you still see it today? You probably do if you look hard enough. And, that's how you're going to formulate an effective performance improvement plan, is remembering who that individual is, why you brought them on, and what it is that you want them to do. Turnover is costly. We want to keep our people and we want to give them substantive feedback to change their performance and to provide them a path forward. The last thing you'll want to do is make sure that you give a summary document or a closing document to that performance improvement plan that they have completed successfully. Make sure you praise them for it. And oftentimes when you have that level of involvement and you really pour yourself into changing that person's performance, and you also have someone who is promotable in the near future.
Yeah, you may have people who work someplace, either leave for one reason or another, and then come back. And I think the dynamic of loyalty is lost nowadays from company to employee and vice versa. We don't have those 50-year gold watch parties. People tend to move around within the industry and then they come back. How do you approach it when somebody comes back? What's your best way of bringing them back into the fold and bringing them up to speed?
We feel like we already know you, which puts you in a better position to re-enter our organization. And it gives you a chance to really form that position around that person. When someone does come back, they often come back for the rest of their career, which is ultimately what you want from all of your employees, is to have people come back and to come back for good.
Yeah, because in the marketing world, the value of branding is super important.
Yes.
So if you stop working for a company, are you still going to buy their product from a store online? Are you going to recommend them?
Yes.
And there's so many parts of that come from the employment experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important to drive homes.
That's really what drives it. That's what drives me or convinces me to continue to use a brand, even after I don't work there anymore, is the people who have built this company. There's good people within this company, and I want to continue to watch them and see them succeed.
Yeah, that's really good. So I'm sure in your field, there's a lot of online networking that goes on. What's your favorite way to stay in touch with people?
I enjoy staying in touch with people via LinkedIn. I think that it's a professional platform that is well regarded and it's well regulated in the fact that there's certain content that LinkedIn doesn't allow, but then also it's regulated in that people practice self-regulation. They understand the platform that they're on and they tend to post things that are more career related and career focused.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I think when you are researching a potential candidate, one of the things that people lose sight of is their social networking footprint can really affect how a company sees them, researches them. And yeah, we all have the freedom of speech, but there are certain things that might render somebody maybe out of the fold if they have certain viewpoints or extreme, ways of thinking.
Or just they don't know how to read the room and they don't understand what platform they're on. When they post things that aren't supposed to be career related or work related on LinkedIn, it gives you pause when you ask yourself, does this person know how to read the room and act appropriately?
Yeah, because then is that going to color their judgment or the way that they interact with their coworkers?
I'd like to address the topic of an email presence or a professional email address. No one in talent acquisition should be caught off guard, taken aback, nor offended by the email address that you choose to put at the top of your resume. I understand that oftentimes an email address is something that we use to express ourselves, but it also needs to be something that we have that is professional for professional use.
It's a really important part that some people might lose sight of that could harm their career. There's a term of CLM, career limiting move. When you're not working, what outside hobby or pursuit helps you offset the usual daily work stress?
I enjoy moving my body. I think that, physical movement, exercise brings a lot of clarity to our thoughts. It brings our day into focus and really it just helps us maximize as individuals. There's been a lot of studies on exercise and being an impactful and effective employee. And it's very much a part of, who I am and what drives me and what continues to inspire me. The other thing that I enjoy focusing in on is volunteerism. I have a heart for the elderly and I enjoy spending time with them. I think that we need to learn from the elderly. They have a lot of wisdom. They have a lot to share with us that helps us, as we navigate throughout life and we don't let the little things get to us, because in the long run, there's only certain things that matter. And I think that the elderly in our society can help us better understand what matters.
Yeah, they've been there and they've seen it. When I was a kid, I had the distinct honor of knowing a man who was 106 years old, and he had seen so much, here in the U.S. and just was sharing stories of his life. And interestingly enough, there was a lot of crossover in his life and what was going on in modern times, even if it had nothing to do with anything of technology or pop culture. Tell me about a time that there was some maybe emotional slight or something that drove you to even more success.
One of the reasons why I got into human resources to begin with was how I was treated by a manager many, many years ago. Not too long after this, I did enter into the field of human resources because I believe that our experiences shape us. They shape who we are, and we want to make sure that we treat people the right way. That old saying, everyone will forget what you said, everyone will forget what you did, but no one will forget how you made them feel. And I think that this experience really shaped me. So I was in my early 20s working as an administrative assistant at a office furniture supply company. And the company was experiencing some financial difficulty. That financial difficulty was obvious to see where it came from, but they were experiencing some financial difficulty nonetheless. And they needed to be in a position of layoffs. and they decided to lay off all of the youngest administrative assistants, which was a group of young ladies. We were all in our early 20s, and we were running the office. We were laid off quite cruelly. We were all sat down in a row at a conference room table. We were laid off collectively together, very insensitively. And our manager, who was head of operations, told us very coldly, very, very short, and not very sweet, that our services were no longer needed, and threw our paychecks at us like frisbees. And I thought to myself, you know what? This is what teaches me how not to be. As I continue to grow in my career, at that point, I didn't know what I was going to do with my future. Not entirely. It wasn't quite clear. But what I did know was that I was not going to be that sort of leader. I was going to be someone who was respectful, was seen as a safe person, and treated people with kindness and also with gratitude for their service.
Yeah, I think that's something that can be lost in the process of employee relations, the value of what they've done, not just from the dollars and cents standpoint. So is there a saying or a quote that really resonates with you and kind of echoes in the back of your mind as you do your work every day?
I believe it's something along the lines of, if you expect others to do something, know how to do it yourself. I think that there's two different types of leaders out there. Leaders who want to build a good team dynamic. They're very focused on the culture of the team. And then there are leaders that want to increase individual skill. My approach is hire for character and train for skill. And I think that, as a human resources professional, when I have mastered all the different areas and aspects of human resources, mastering payroll, mastering benefits, mastering employee relations, mastering employee performance feedback, when I have done all those things, that's when I can lead other people to be able to do those things for an organization. I think that, in order to be looked up to and be respected, at least in my opinion, I need a manager who's very skilled at those areas that they're expecting me to perform in.
Yeah, somebody who's more of a leader and not just a boss.
Correct.
All right. What's your strategic career goal for the next 3 to 5 years?
I want to stay in human resources. I enjoy human resources. I like being a human resources leader. I also like being a human resources business partner and providing strategic advice to executive leadership and helping making sure that they succeed, because when they succeed, we all succeed.
Yep. What's one thing that you wish people knew about you? Nothing really uncomfortable or hyper-personal, but more like a hidden talent or a skill.
One of the things that I wish people knew about me sooner, I would say, because I think that as we get to know people, they reveal themselves to us. But I think that one of the things that I wish people knew about me sooner was my ability to read the room and put talent together. I know what personalities work best together, how they complement each other in order to drive the business forward. I think that, if we have an individual within the organization that's able to understand people, let's make them a strategic part of building our structure.
That's good. Now, as you bring these people together, there's ways to maybe break down some walls. Is there a question or maybe a conversation point that you sit across from somebody who's very introverted, maybe who's just inside themselves? Is there something that you can ask that helps open them up a little bit, kind of show them that they're in a space that they can trust and let people get to know them?
Yeah, I find that asking people what drives them is really what tells you the most, what you need to know about an individual. What's their focus? What drives you? Is there a person? Is there something that drives you to succeed? What is your ultimate goal in working? What is it that you want to achieve by working? And that's how you really get to know people, who they are. And I think when people feel known, they feel more confident and they feel like letting their true selves out. And that's when people shine, is when they're able to let their true selves out there.
Yeah, that personal brand really helps them to show and be memorable when it comes time for promotions or recognition. So I think that's a really good point. So As people want to reach out and maybe get in touch with you, perhaps ask you some other questions or just connect, what's the best way to do that? What you mentioned LinkedIn earlier. Is that a good spot to find you?
Yes, message me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to help, happy to answer any questions you may have. Also, if there's a topic that you want to discuss with me further, let's connect on LinkedIn and we can certainly share.
Yeah, good professionals doing things together. So I'll make sure that Krista's link is in the description and get in touch with her. So thank you again for taking time to enlighten us with your experience and sharing some inspiration. This has been Troy Vera from the WIWHK podcast. Join us again, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening, everyone, and I hope to connect with you on LinkedIn.